I do this kind of video from time to time because it is a lot of information and it's important to write it down. And this is about choosing your first power wheelchair, your first manual wheelchair. So, this is a lot of information. So, I might do it in two sections per se, so you don't get overwhelmed. The first one is I'm going to do power wheelchair and scooters and the difference and what are the advantages of one or the other. In another video, I discussed the differences between scooters and wheelchairs, how scooters are much longer in their construct, and how it is much more difficult to turn them around. And if you live in a small apartment or a small home, that's going to be difficult to, they're narrower, but to turn them around is more difficult. So they have smaller batteries and they can't go as far as power wheelchairs. So, and you have to be careful after about a year and a half. You want to change those batteries, but insurance companies, if you got it through insurance, won't allow the change to happen until the 2 year mark for scooters. The same for power wheelchairs. So it's a 2 year mark, you change your batteries, and they'll cover it. They don't expect us to hang on to those batteries for 5 years. So that would be disastrous. Um, so that is the big difference between a scooter and a power wheelchair. The power wheelchair can do a very tight rotation in your space, whatever space that is. And scooters cannot do that. They need space to be able to turn around. If you think of the composition, scooters are much longer, so the front is the only thing that rotates. So it takes a bit of space to do that. So they can get through narrower doors, but that is about it. Then you just go in, and then you have to go backwards. It's very awkward, and for elevators, it's difficult. You have to drive in, face the wall, and then be able to uh, go backwards to get out. So it's not easy. Power wheelchairs, you can get into an elevator, and you can do that tight rotation and turn yourself around to face the main door. So that is an advantage. Um, let's see what else. The scooter does not have any. They don't have any springs, so going over bumps is a little hard. The wheels are not inflated, so going over bumps is pretty harsh. With power wheelchairs, they have springs, and the wheels handle the bumps pretty well. So that is another thing that I experienced. And I'm talking out of experience because I used a scooter for a little bit before I got the power wheelchair. We had one in the basement, and the therapist said to me, take it out, clean it off and ride around in it so you can feel the difference, once we test out some power wheelchair. So, and I noticed a big difference, the bumpiness of the scooter and the advantages with a power wheelchair. Now, financially, scooters are much cheaper. The insurance a lot of times will prefer that you get a scooter because they're cheaper. But there are difficulties, when you get that scooter and being able to handle it in a small, tight space. So, so you got to think twice about that. Um, they are lighter than power wheelchairs. Power wheelchairs will be 150 pounds on up, depending on the type of power wheelchair you get. So my power wheelchair weighs, it's a simple power wheelchair, nothing complicated about it, but it weighs 214 pounds. So it's not like I can lift it up and put it in my car. And there are scooters that you can fold them up, pick them up, put them in your car. So that is an advantage of the scooters, that there are very light scooters, scooters you can fold up and you can pick up easily and put them in your car. So that is an advantage of the scooter. So I'm not going to deny, their advantages. Now, as I talk about advantages of the scooter, there are a lot of new designs that have come out for the power wheelchair, that the power wheelchair also can be folded up even with one hand. And those are kind of a new concept, I think, in the last maybe 2 years. However, those models of power wheelchairs are not made, and listen to me clearly, are not made to be used on a daily basis. Why? Because they're not as strong enough. You can take it for a trip. That's what they're really made for. If you're going to travel in an airplane a lot frequently, or you're going to go into a train, or you're heavy duty traveling, those power wheelchairs are really suited for that type of travel, but they're not suited for daily heavy duty use. They will break down on you, and then you'll complain that the business did not make it strong enough. No, it just wasn't used. It wasn't made for daily use. I had a person who bought one of these fold-up wheelchairs and had a remote with it, very cute, but it wasn't made for daily use. And she was a little bit more heavier. We're going to talk about weights in a bit. And she was a bit on the heavy side, and it kept on breaking on her. And she kept on asking me, why is this breaking? Why did they make it this is a lemon. I said, no, it's not a lemon. I said, this was made for travel, for air travel, and you're trying to use it for daily use, and it keeps on breaking down on you because it's not made for daily use. So these lightweight fold-up power wheelchairs are not, and listen to me clearly, are not made for heavy-duty daily use. So you need to keep that in mind. They might be, cute, they might be convenient, but they're not made for daily use. If you need a power wheelchair that's made for daily use, then you need to get a regular power wheelchair. And we'll talk about what's going to be required to transport, scooters and power wheelchairs, regular scooters and regular power wheelchairs in a second, because that's really important. All right, so now for the power wheelchairs, the regular power wheelchairs, like the ones I use, the Jazzy, have a Jazzy Select 6 or any of the Jazzy series, or any other power wheelchairs that are made for daily use. They are not for, just picking up and putting in your car. Those are not, because power wheelchairs will weigh 150 pounds or more. So my power wheelchair is not made for that. You have to put it in a van, or you have to put it in a bus, where they can strap you down. So that is really, really important to know, that the regular power wheelchair cannot be taken apart and thrown in your car. Doesn't work that way. So you would have to use a van to either county service, or save up your pennies and get a van, or exchange your car for a van that can transport your power wheelchair or your scooter. Now, the regular scooters are also not made to just take apart and put it in your car. Some are. The earlier versions of the scooters, they were trying to figure out how to fold up scooters and make them more convenient. And there are scooters that you can take apart and put it in your trunk. Some are, and those can hold up to daily use. You'd have to ask. I don't know if that model exists anymore because they've really gone to the fold-up type scooters. So you have to look at the lighter model of scooters that you can fold up, or the sturdy, heavy-duty scooters that will need a van or bus to transport them because they are heavy and they're not made to be taken apart every day. So those are the details of the scooters, the make of these scooters, and I'll be posting, and you'll be seeing these models that I'm posting. Let's see. Another detail that you need to take into consideration is your weight. That's one of the things that the therapist needs to work with, your weight. How much do you weigh? Because each scooter, each power wheelchair has their weight capacity. They'll be good for 200, for 250, for 300, for 450. So those chairs go according to weight. And I think the maximum is 450. If you weigh more than that, then, you get more into the specialized power wheelchairs or scooters. There are scooters that can hold up weight pretty well. Same brands, not same brands, but same type of scale of weights: 200, 250, 300, 450, and up to 500. I'm assuming. So. But power wheelchairs will be more specialized if you weigh more than 450. So, and those wheelchairs for sure cannot be taken apart and thrown in your car. So, and it's no criticism. It's just a health condition that some of us have. I weigh 200, a little bit over 200. So, the wheelchair that I choose at the 5th year, because at the 5th year, you can switch out your wheelchair for a new one. And it's best to do that because the wheelchair only lasts, and their durability only lasts about 5 years. Same thing for the scooters, for the most part, because of the wheel endurance and the structure. It all kind of starts to break down, and the insurance is only going to pay for so many repairs. So you really have to keep all these tidbits in mind in terms of what is going to benefit you the most. The therapist will give her suggestions, but you also have to think on how you want to use that power wheelchair or the scooter. And the reason why I'm talking about scooters here, this channel is for power and manual wheelchairs, but scooters have come into view because some people struggle to choose between power wheelchairs and scooters. And that is really important to consider the difference between the two, and the size of your house, the size of your apartment, where you're living now, where you'll be living in 5 years, and the size and all of that. So you really need to consider the difference between the two that I have stated here and what is going to help you the most. All right, so in this section, we're going to talk about wheels and speed. I think those go well. And we're going to start slipping more into the power wheelchair section. For speeds, for the most part, power wheelchairs go at 4 miles per hour. That's like the generic speed. However, if you are someone who's going to college, someone who works in a large factory, someone who, is on the streets often and going from one place to another, you can request for some power wheelchairs, you can request more speed. From 4, it goes to 5 to 6 or to 7. I think the maximum is like 10 miles per hour for some wheelchairs. Not all of them can be increased in terms of the speed. So just know that power wheelchairs do go in increments of speed. And you can see if the model you're looking at can be increased. And that's something you have to request. And I don't know if insurance just covers it with the rest of the wheelchair or it doesn't. So you kind of have to ask the therapist about that. But you have to see, what use are you going to give this power wheelchair? So if 4 miles per hour is the fastest pace a person can walk, to give you an example. But yeah, 4 miles per hour is the fastest that a person can walk normally. So it's pretty good for me. I use it when I'm going across a large parking lot. I use it for when I have to get on the road and get back on the sidewalk. So I'll use 4 miles per hour to get through it a little bit quicker. Some people will need more than 4 miles per hour because they're in a college and they have to get from one building to another. So they need to go a little bit faster than 4 miles per hour to get to their classes on time. So that's important for you to know that. So those are the speeds. And, some scooters also have greater speeds than 4 miles per hour. Okay, let's talk about wheels. Briefly here, there are different types of wheels. There are inflatable wheels. I did not choose for my power wheelchair inflatable wheels because I did not want the stress of checking the wheels or, having incidents out there with my wheels being uninflated by some sharp object, which has happened to a lot of people. The advantage with the inflatable is that your ride is a little bit softer, but the other thing is that you can run into sharp objects and your wheel will just disinflate. So, or will pop. So those are the things I wanted to avoid. So I chose the hard wheels. That's not exactly the name of them. I'll correct that at some point. But they're called solid wheels. So, and there are the type that you can use just only outside. And there are the hard wheels that you can use inside and outside. And what it means when you can use it inside and outside is that it won't mark up your carpet or your floors. And that's a huge advantage. So I really wanted that type of wheel so I wouldn't make a mess of the house. So I have the type of wheel that will not mark up my carpets or floors because we have both here. We have floor and we have carpet. So so far so good. I have never had any issues. My wheels have never marked up the floors, and so there was another person using another wheelchair, and she did not pay attention to the type of wheel that she requested, so she was marking up the floors. They could not blame me. So it is really important to request that those wheels not mark up your floors so it doesn't drive you crazy. But however, some people, for insurance, especially Medicare, Medicare needs to hear that the wheelchair is going to be used inside. If you're only going to be using it outside, then Medicare says, oh, you don't need a wheelchair. That's their ruling. So you really have to think about this. Do you need a wheelchair at this time or not? You know, I needed it for inside and outside because I'm in a big building. Sometimes I have to go to the other side and I can't walk that far of a distance. So I do go different parts of the building and I need my wheelchair. So in the morning to help me with some pain, I change from the walker after breakfast into my wheelchair, and that helps me bring down pain. So I use it inside a lot for different things, and then I use it for outside always. So because of my conditions. So that is a thing that you need to think about. Are you going to use it inside? And for what reasons? So those are things that you need to discuss with your therapist. And she'll tell you that Medicare will not cover for only outside. So you have to look at reasons why you would use the wheelchair inside your home. And to always request wheels that probably are not going to wreck up your home inside. That is a suggestion. The softer the wheel, the higher the probability it will leave marks on the floor and on carpets. So solid wheels are going to be important. To tell your therapist what you're going to use it for outside is also important. If you want to go to a park or you want to go to a trail, if you want to, how far you're going to go in your wheelchair, that's really important. Then the therapist will know what type of wheels that you're really going to need. Mine had, some good lines in it so that it would grab a hold of terrain, certain terrains I wanted to go in. Now my wheels are wearing down, so I'm hoping I can continue to use these wheels until the 5th year. So got to be a little bit more gentle with them. But so you got to consider what type of wheels and what you're going to use the power wheelchair for. So that's really going to be important. If you're going to go the scooter route, you have to think about, what moments are you going to use a scooter in your home. So those are really important details of speed and wheels. Now let's talk about wheelchairs and the different types. There is one school of type, let's call it that, that are regular wheelchairs, like mine. Mine is a regular power wheelchair. It doesn't do anything special. It has the power. I charge it every night, but it doesn't do anything special. But then there's the complex power wheelchairs, and those have a lot of different gadgets that can help your condition. So depending on your condition and your needs, the aide will either choose a power wheelchair like I do because I just need to get from point A to point B, or if you have, polio or you have ALS or you have, one of those more specialized conditions, then she will go into the complex power wheelchair school. And those power wheelchairs, of course, are a little bit more expensive because they have lots of gadgets and lots of tools that you can add on to the power wheelchair to help you in your condition, your pain, your circumstances. So she won't go into that school unless you really need it. So my therapist said for me right now, she's keeping me in the normal, regular power wheelchairs school. So we'll leave it at that. And that's fine with me, because there's a variety of types of wheelchairs in that school that I could use or request when my 5th year comes up. So Um, so at this point, the complex power wheelchairs, you've seen them with special headrests, and they recline. You can bring your legs up and all kinds of different things that they do. Um, so it's really important for you to know your condition, what it's called, so that when you're talking to the therapist, that you know if you qualify for this school or the other school, for the complex power wheelchairs or for the regular power wheelchairs. Um, and you'll work that out with the therapist. I am not a person to determine that. But know if your condition is more complicated than mine. I'm just a paraplegic type. They call it paraparesis, but it's more paraplegic than anything else. So my hands are still working. So we don't need anything, complicated or special for me. But for you, you might have a condition that, might progress down the road. So the therapist he or she would go into the complex power wheelchairs to start with, and get what you really need so you can build on as your situation gets more complicated. So those are the two schools that you want to keep in mind. And you can ask your therapist, am I in the regular power wheelchairs or am I in the complex power wheelchair school? So she will let you know right away, because it'll be obvious to the therapist which school you're in. I keep on saying she because my therapist is a she. And most therapists are women because they're caregivers. So they end up doing a lot of the physical therapy. There are some men, but very few. So they're usually trying to work out and invite men to join the physical therapy school. Using a lot of schools here. So that is all I can think of. There's lighter things that you want to think about, like what color of wheelchair do you want? In terms of height and wideness, the person who will bring you those models of wheelchairs will have those measurements already, or they'll take the measurements when they come. So we all have different measurements. They'll ask you for your height, your weight, and some of us are a little bit wider on the butt, and some of us are not. So some of us are pretty skinny and tall. So the wheelchair has to go according to those measurements. You just don't throw a wheelchair at a person and say have fun. See you next year. No. So they really have to go according to strict measurements, and they will do that when they come with the wheelchairs to show you a couple of different models. So, I want to invite you to go online, even though I've shown you some models here, to go online, and I will leave some links of some stores. I have no connection to any of these stores. And you can go on the stores and just look at different models, the regular power wheelchairs and the complex power wheelchairs. Not all stores sell complex power wheelchairs. There are certain stores that will sell complex power wheelchairs and regular power wheelchairs. There are a few stores that only do complex power wheelchairs. And I will leave all those links down below so that you can go to those pages and become familiar. The more information you have about wheelchairs and scooters and that kind of thing, the better for you, because then you'll know what questions to ask in terms of wheels and that kind of thing. So really, educate yourself the best you can. And this is a really basic video for you to kind of look at. 30 minutes, and I'll put some chapters on this one so so you don't fall asleep. But all the information is important. I think I've divided it up in certain sections. I don't want to babble on this one. This one is really important for anyone who's in the market for a wheelchair for the first time or second rodeo, third rodeo, doesn't matter. Sometimes to refresh your mind in terms of, oh yeah, I wanted to ask about this. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask for this on my wheelchair. I know I want this. Now, the other thing I'm going to talk about is accessories for your wheelchair. Usually the companies will allow you 3 extra accessories without charging you. There'll be 3 free accessories for you. So you got to think of, and they're little things like cup holder, like a backpack or, pouch for you to carry things. Other accessories are like longer arms. You want short armrests or longer armrests, or do you want a headrest or no headrest? My headrest was kind of useless, so I've taken it off. You don't see it now. It's not there. Let's see what else. I do have a cup holder, and I have a pouch on the side, which I have a, pen and paper, and I have a flashlight in there, my keys. So the pouch on the side has been really important. I don't like to go out and have anything in the back of my power wheelchair ever, because there's people back there. I can't reach it. Yeah, I can't reach anything, almost anything in the back. So I don't bother with the back. I want it on the side, or have a pouch in front of me, because I don't want anybody fooling with any of my stuff back here. Really, I don't. So the side and the front is most important for me. So you got to think of those accessories and what type of footrests you want. Now, I wanted to do the flat triangle type footrest, and that's what I did, but I have a lot of trouble handling it. So I know now, because this was my first power wheelchair, that I was learning in terms of what is easy, what is not easy for me. The platform type footrest for me is not good. I need the ones that open up. They're called swing away footrests, and my therapist knows that now. So that's what we're going to do when we upgrade. We're going to have to change the power wheelchair, because this model cannot switch out to a different type of footrest. So we're going to have to look at a model that can support the swing away footrest. So if you are paraplegic, you might want to look at the swing away footrest because it's just impossible for me. I'm not supposed to bend over, so I can't do that. I'll be pulling stuff that I shouldn't, and then I'll cause more pain for myself. So the swing away footrest is the best for me. So we'll see what kind of model we need to switch over to. And I need the speed no less than 4 miles per hour. So it's that combination. Same wheels. I need the same wheels. I always want a cup holder because, picking up my dishes and bringing them over to where I need to deposit them, I need the glass in a safe spot. So I don't want to drop anything. So they'll say these are the accessories that you can choose from. So I will put some accessories here so you can see what kind of accessories will they offer. And usually they'll give you a choice of 3. So that will be helpful for you to know that, okay, and you can ask, what kind of accessories will this company offer me? So those are minor things. And it's best, my suggestion is it's best to know what kind of accessories you really want the day of that you're going to choose that power wheelchair, because later it's going to cost you a few bucks. Coming from the company, it's, later, if you buy them later, it's going to cost you $30. So if you order it with the wheelchair, then it won't cost you anything. So that's the difference. So it's important to know the difference of if I buy it later or if I buy it the day of. So it really helps to take out a piece of paper and write down those accessories that are most important for you having a wheelchair. And sometimes you don't know because it's your first power wheelchair. This was my first, and I learned as I went along, and I mentioned that to the therapist. I said, I absolutely need, cup holders. I absolutely need the swing away footrest because I can't handle the platform type. So she knows that now, and she wrote that down. And so when we go to look at models of power wheelchairs, then we know speed is also important, so I don't get run over on the road. so we'll figure it out. But now I know what is essential for me in picking out a power wheelchair. And for you, it'll be important for you to know what kind of power wheelchair will be and what kind of accessories will be an absolute for you. So, because everybody's a little different, and that's okay. But I wanted you to have this basic video so that you know what to write down, and there's the last minute things like, what color do you like, I would prefer silver next time, but I don't think they usually don't give you much of a choice in terms of color. It's usually blue or red, or black. So mine is blue for now, and we'll see. And it depends on the model of colors that they will offer. So, and every year things change. Every year there's a new power wheelchair coming out every year, because they try to improve the power wheelchairs that they've already made. So it's really important to look at the pages, see what's going on, and what's coming out on the market next. So that is the roundabout for power wheelchairs, a little bit about scooters, speeds, and everything else. It's a lot. So, and I felt overwhelmed. If I felt overwhelmed when I was getting my first power wheelchair, I'm sure a lot of people out there would too. So here are the tips, and I will leave you plenty of links to look at, and so you can start making your list. One thing I don't want to forget to mention to you is don't order your power wheelchair without brackets. Now, I did a whole series of brackets, bolts, and something else. But brackets are really important. Those are those metal loops that are on your wheelchair right down below your seat, and that is for a bus or a van to strap you down when you're in. So that is really important. I think most power wheelchairs are coming with brackets anyway, but do request the brackets out loud so that they know that brackets are important for you, so you can be strapped down appropriately when you're in a bus or a van, and to the near future in an airplane, because they're about to put that system in airplanes. So brackets are becoming much more important and much more relevant today than they were in the past. So don't forget to ask for